Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and now the comeback. Look, I'm not saying for sure that at this particular juncture in time, it is smooth sailing. We are moving up from here. There's no more action to the downside. I'm not pretending to know if you're talking on the very short term, whether or not that is the case. But I will tell you this, we are in that moment in time where any day XRP can start rocketing yet again. And we've had multiple moments like that over the last couple weeks in particular. You just wake up and XRP is going. We're still living in that moment where you can just wake up and it's going yet again. XRP price cannot and will not stay in this range forever. It is done being artificially suppressed. We're at the later stages of a bull run. The fundamentals have never been stronger. It couldn't be more obvious that this is what is most probable. And so I'm not surprised to see that there are multiple analysts anticipating that XRP is going to be upwards of $8 by next month. Mind you, we're almost in August. So we're talking about some point in August, XRP getting upwards of $8. Now, not that these analysts are specifically promising for sure that's going to happen in August, but based on historic precedent, it's the type of thing that they will say publicly, and for understandable reasons, is possible, if not probable. It's an exciting time to be an XRP holder. So yeah, fine. In the short term, I understand. Yesterday, going into this morning, we had XRP pull back briefly below $3. I get it. We're up a bit from that $3.19 as of the time I'm recording this. Maybe that was all we needed to have the shakeout. And there are analysts that think that's most probable. Maybe they're right. I'm just saying, even if we do go down for a little bit more of a dive before we move to the upside, it doesn't matter. Time-wise, we're splitting hairs here. It's about to happen, folks. It's time for the comeback. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 4:41 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, July 24th, 2025. XRP got as high as $3.26 just a little bit earlier today. After hitting its low for this most recent crash action, XRP got as low as $2.98 as recorded by Live Coin Watch. Bitcoin basically just chugging sideways for most of the last 24 hours. It's at $118,694. Now here's a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto, and this is fascinating. How he thought this was gonna, in all likelihood, play out is what happened. Like, this guy is consistently just demonstrating he's one of the best analysts at all crypto. He just is. And so he shared this post with his 473,000 followers just this morning. Now, this is an XRP USD chart. This is from May 5th, actually, the first one. I got two screen grabs to share with you. The first one he shared is from May 5th. That's what we're looking at. And so the price of XRP at the time was $2.10. Yes, the good old days, simpler times. And so here he wrote this morning, referencing the May 5th chart on your screen, XRP has completed the triple tap setup and hit our range highs. And so what triple tap? What's that? Well, look at the May 5th chart. He's sharing that there was a tap right here, another one right down here. You have to be looking at the screen to see what I'm referencing here. And then he was proposing that there would be another one in his May 5th post. I'm not, for the sake of time, I'm not going to read it. It's part of it's on the screen here. But he's saying that it was going to happen. Now, when analysts draw something like this, they're not promising that this would be the exact moment when it would happen. They're sketching an idea down for how this might play out. So, although he sketched it as though it would happen in May, that isn't what he meant was going to happen. He's not promising time or a specific price level. He's sharing an idea. Analysts do this all the time, and it's very consistently misunderstood by just about everybody that's watching it, or reading, in this case, on X. So here's how the chart actually played out. You did get the triple tap. Came down right about here where I moved my mouse. It was in June. And then it rocketed. And so that's what he's referencing. He says, XRP has completed the triple tap setup and hit our range highs. Folks, he was calling for this. And he said, at the moment, it is retesting the range highs and flipped D3 supply, which ideally now acts as support. On low time frames, I think we could be missing a small fifth subwave here to complete the first five-wave move up off our low, our $1.90 lows, which again is what happened in June, not just weeks ago. Can you believe we were down to $1.90, and then we hit $3.65. Anyway, he says overall nothing bearish about this chart. This dip is normal/healthy, and so this is a great example of why I always say either you have exposure when an asset rockets to the upside, or you do not. The only surefire way to make sure you have exposure is after you buy to not panic sell, to not make emotional buying and selling decisions in general, frankly. But either you have exposure when it happens or not. And if we're right and these things are going to keep trending upwards as the years pass, then what does that tell you? It tells you that the best investment approach for regular people like myself and pretty much everybody is after you buy to do literally nothing. Either you have exposure or you don't. And the people that panic sold when XRP got down to $1.90, they didn't have exposure because they panic sold and they missed the move up to $3.65. Similarly, the people that just panic sold as XRP went slightly below $3, now they're not going to have exposure because they just panic sold, unless they fix the problem. They're not going to have that exposure the next time XRP rockets, which is going to happen much sooner than later. The comeback from this latest move is coming. Either it's already started or it's about to happen, obviously. How many of you checked out the Blockchain Backer's most recent video from this morning? Straight up banger, as usual, consistently putting out top shelf material here. And I just want to say like two things, two big ideas out of what he shared. And you should check out his video. It's about 10 minutes long here. But he noted that the total crypto the total crypto asset class, if you look at which is called the total chart when you're looking at it, total, which broke out into all-time highs mere days ago, it all it did is it went back down to test the breakout level as support, which he says was expected. And now it's bouncing from that support level. This stuff happens all the time. This isn't surprising. It's not scary. It scared some people. It didn't scare me. I'm excited because we're at the end of the bull run here, folks. This is where the most fun and life-changing wealth happens. Anyway, but he also noted that Bitcoin is not the reason that the total crypto asset class hit a new all-time high. The reason that happened, even though Bitcoin is included in that chart, the reason it happened is because altcoins rallied because new money was thrown into them. That's right, new money went into. And the reason we know that's the case is because alts rallied without the price of Bitcoin crashing. It really was new money entering the space. Exciting, and that's what you hope and want to see towards the end of a market cycle. And so that's why only altcoins took a dive the other day going into today. It's because altcoins were the only coins that needed to backtest the breakout of that all-time high level, not Bitcoin. See, Bitcoin it didn't go down because it just wasn't a part of that move in the first place. And so during this crash, XRP simply went back down to test its breakout level, which was close to the $3 level. And by the way, so most excitingly, the Blockchain Backer said that he believes it's possible that XRP could be around $8.50 by August. Now, to be clear, that's not a prediction. He's not promising that's going to happen. He articulated why he said that is plausible. That's it. That is different. Saying something's plausible is different than straight up predicting something. He doesn't ever predict something with time. The closest he gets to that, which I think is responsible, is he'll say, based on historic precedent, here's what it might look like. Based on my experience, maybe it's somewhere in this range. I don't know for sure. Which I completely respect because there is no analyst, no matter how talented they are, that can consistently predict time. He's taking the right approach there, and I respect that. But he did warn. So even if XRP hits $8.50 by August, we're talking within the next few weeks here. He still warned that we'll see even larger corrections than what we just went through for XRP. Larger, folks. You could see what do you see multi-dollar corrections? Potentially in the cards if XRP gets up that high in price. You could see corrections way bigger than what just happened. On the way to the ultimate peak for this market cycle. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. He said $6 to $8 in XRP price. So $6 to $8 per XRP in August is highly likely. So he came to this conclusion independently and posted that this morning. So he's not promising that's going to happen, and I do respect that. But because look, if you're a chart analyst talking about time, this is the closest you should get to it, in my humble opinion. You can say it's likely, and then if you want to articulate why, you say based on so-and-so, here's why I think it's plausible. That's the closest you should get to a time prediction, and not any further, in my humble opinion. That's it. So saying that we could hit $6 to $8 in August, not nuts. And I'm telling you, historically, that type of price action happens super fast. Think about how quickly XRP went from 49 cents to $2.90 in mere weeks in early December. And then it did move sideways, but then it went to $3.40 in January. But think about how quick that first move happened, up to $2.90. Just weeks. So you absolutely can have a situation where when XRP starts going, if it really is about to hit the peak, that can happen in weeks. Don't forget, in 2017, XRP went from 20 cents to its all-time high of $3.35 on January 4th of 2018, and that only took 2.5 weeks. So can it happen that fast? Yes. You blink and the thing's over. Yes, really. So if you're like, wait a minute, can it really get that high that quick? Yeah, it could. It doesn't mean it will. I don't pretend to know the timing, but yes, not crazy stuff. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Greg Crypto. XRP volume analysis. The recent formation broke with significant selling volume, but buyers quickly stepped in with aggressive purchases. However, sellers came back for another round of selling. I truly believe this dip might scare many newcomers, leading them to sell their XRP before the ETF mega launches. Yeah, so we'll see to what degree ETF launches materially help in a bull run. I mean, even just the news of that can help in a bull run. As far as the amount of money flowing in, I think that's going to matter more over a span of year and decades. But still, any increase in demand, I'll take it. But he's right here. He says that this dip might scare many newcomers. Yes, that is what it does. But like I said a few minutes ago, either you have exposure when the rocket ship takes off, or you do not. And the only way to make sure that you do is after you buy, to just keep holding no matter what the hell happens. Because you can't know, but if our overall conviction is right that XRP makes sense and is going to be here decades from now, then in the end, who cares and why are you panic selling? And if you don't have that conviction, well, I don't know how to help you other than to tell you to just do research. Like there's no trick to make me feel comfortable. That's not really. I mean, experience does help to some degree, but really, it's just that I genuinely believe what I'm saying. Like I think it's very clear XRP makes sense. It's already a winner in the crypto space, and I'm waiting for everybody else to acknowledge what I already have known is true since 2017. That's what I'm waiting for. There's no trick to it beyond that. So if you don't have that level of conviction, I mean that's okay, but you should question why you're here then. Are you sure? Because I mean, if I didn't know why I was doing this, I'd probably have trouble sleeping at night. But outside of that, I mean, there are exceptions to that. If your strategy, and this is a respectable strategy too, it just depends on if you're putting a boatload of money specifically into one, which is what I initially did, because I just believed XRP would be here for the long haul. That's one thing. Another approach, of course, is to just have broad exposure, which is what I've really heavily shifted to over the last close to half a decade at this point. Just really having broad exposure. If you're doing that, then it's kind of like investing in an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. You're not researching 500 companies to make sure that they all make sense. You're not doing that. You're buying one ETF, and then it tracks those 500 companies in that index. Well, you can do something similar here, even though there aren't a bunch of multi-coin ETFs yet, although they're coming. You can just have exposure to large caps, and that's going to do something kind of functionally similar. So if your approach is that, and you're like, okay, I can't get into this world where I'm researching like a dozen or 2 dozen coins. I just can't do that. I just want exposure, and the market's going to figure it out. That's a respectable approach too. You're basically making your own little index fund at that point. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm effectively doing that. Like I don't pretend that every single, because I hold dozens of coins. It's not like all of the coins that I hold are ridiculously as well researched as I've researched XRP. That's not the case. I do it the same reason that I invest in an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. It's to get broad exposure, because the coins that are towards the top, people have already vetted them. It's the same reason there are large cap stocks. People have vetted them. They agreed that makes the most sense. That's why the most money flowed in, right? Same with crypto. These are the coins that are most vetted. That's why XRP's been towards the top of the list. So if you're just consistently investing in like the larger cap coins, those are going to be less risky than small caps, obviously, unquestionably. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom, XRP here. He says, XRP update, and this is just from this morning, 9:44 a.m. Central. The overall market saw a healthy flush out to wipe some of the leverage that built up over the last 2 weeks. This pullback wiped out nearly 30% of all open interest on XRP, 1.3 billion. This chart from last week shows a perfect retest of the last major level to flip, and as of now, it's constructive and healthy. I think down to $2.80. He says 2.80s is the way I guess you read that, but $2.80 region is the lowest we would want to see this go before structure becomes questionable. Yeah, and so at the moment I'm recording this, we're safely above $2.80, obviously. But again, another analyst who's been here for a long time, and he's like, yeah, it's just a pullback. This is normal. It looks healthy so far. Everything's fine. And that's what you consistently find from the analysts that know what the hell they're talking about. Everything's fine, folks. Here's a post from Dark Defender from early this morning. He says, whatever happened on November 23rd happened yesterday. A complete normal correction. XRP is getting ready for the next leg up. Do you guys even remember a correction on November 23rd? Because I literally don't, but it happened. Here, let me just Surely on live coin watch here. Ooh, no, that's not the chart I want. Let me do a 12-month chart. Right here, maybe this is it. Yeah, look at this bad boy. So you can see when XRP closed on the 22nd, it was $1.46. The next day it closed at $1.43, and then the next day it was down to $1.37. But those are candle closes, just mind you. That's not showing you the volatility. So it's not showing you what the highs were on those days and the lows were on those days. So presumably it was a bit more erratic than that. But there was a pullback. I don't even specifically remember that one, but he's pointing out here that it was the same type of panic that was induced by that briefly, and then it resumed. But there were people panicking in the streets effectively November 23rd when that thing went down. Look at how small that looks now. Do you see that? Do you even remember that? Because I literally don't. But it's on the chart. It happened. This is why I keep saying, quit freaking out. Like, this is very normal. You get pullbacks in bull markets. There's nothing wrong here. This is very normal stuff. Either you have exposure when the thing runs, or you don't. And there are people that panic sold at $1.30, and then that motherfucker ran to $3.65 the other day. Either you have exposure or you do not when it happens. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. XRP trying to bounce here, and he posted that at 2:10 p.m., so just less than 3 hours ago. And it might be. We shall see here. I don't know if this is the moment where it starts running, but analysts think that it's plausible this could be the moment. So maybe we already saw the worst of this. We'll find out together. Chart analyst Ali Martinez certainly thinks that this is probably the low, or at least possible. He shared this post this morning. Buy XRP now, says the TD sequential indicator. So buy signals galore, he thinks. Here's the post from chart analyst X-Force Global. XRP, negative 18% pullback after a 126% move, yet people still have the audacity to call it the beginning of a bear market. Pro tip, the trend is your friend. Remember, we've seen negative 50% or more moves before seeing explosive 5x moves in a bull market. And folks, this is in line with what I keep insisting is indeed true, and he is correct. You can have these types of pullbacks even at the later stages of a bull market, and then the asset that pulled back rockets to the upside. There's nothing structurally broken here. I don't follow any chart analysts that happen to think that what happened yesterday indicates the structure of what's happening here is broken. And I would share if I found one or two or how many analysts that I follow that say, guys, this is really bad news. Actually, we're donezo. Like, I would highlight that because I like diverse perspective. And sometimes minority positions are correct. Usually not, though. And I would have given them credit, even though it would have sucked if we were going in the bear market. Nobody thinks that. Not that I follow. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Wizard, XRP USD here. He says, ready for more. The bears are out in full force. Why? XRP is on the verge of flipping its previous local top as support. And you know where it was recently. And he posted this, by the way, at 3:30. So this is what, about an hour and a half ago, just about? So XRP on the verge of flipping its previous local top as support. If successful, this is the move before $4.50 and higher. The equal pull target is on the chart. It looks nutty. So, and I keep seeing this from analysts. Like, yeah, we're going higher quite a bit, even in the short term here. I keep seeing this. Here's a post from CW. The XRP correction seems to be ending at the Fibonacci retracement level of .618. And so it was $2.99. So Live CoinWatch shows $2.98. We're splitting hairs at that point, but this is what he's talking about right here, this green bar. It says the next target is the Fibonacci retracement level of 1.618, which is $4.75. It's coming. Look, most analysts don't normally agree on stuff like this. Do you see how they're very samey style posts? That is not normally the case with this batch of XRP chart analysts. They don't normally say in unison almost exactly the same thing. They are now because it's glaringly obvious. That's what that means. And usually when they're like that, whatever they think is probable to occur actually does. Here's a post from Javon Marks. I shared this the other day, but worth repeating here since this was after XRP started cratering. Confidence not wavering whatsoever. He said XRP's run looks to be well in its process. Prices can be headed right to that $4.80 target level above, and we could see XRP push above $7. And he cited $8 here on the chart as well. Do you see the recurring thing? They all keep coming to the same or similar conclusions about what's about to happen here. That is exceedingly rare. I'm telling you, this is not normally the case. They don't normally agree in unison like this. When they do, it means something historically. That's been my experience going back half a decade specifically when I started noticing this and tracking this many analysts and covering it on my channel. Here's a post from chart analyst XR Punky. XRP could have either completed a wave 4 correction or can still dip to the lower zone around $2.64, then continue with wave 5. So he believes up regardless. He says, structurally, we are still very bullish. Pullbacks are part of the game. Enjoy the ride to higher prices soon. And so there you go, folks. There is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. This is very normal in crypto. Either you have exposure when the big moves happen or you don't. That's that. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.